Joram Ssonko with Winnie Buyinza Nakauchi on sign language. We're coming to you live from Plot 42 Nile Avenue. But first, a look at our top stories.
In business today, development of Tilenga oil project assumes shape as work on the industrial area and central processing facility gear up. Ministry of Finance fails to avail budget performance document, all hope set for 15th next month. And the arrangement between URA and the Real Estate Association is expected to harmonize rental tax, a key concern for proprietors.
Right onto it. We do start with the cost to oil 2025. Despite the fuse, capital sourcing, land acquisition and other tasks, the Tilenga oil project has so far covered reasonable feet, envisioning a clear production target come 2025. Total Energies, whose stake stands at 57, has secured 700 acres of land for the industrial area and the central facility for its onshore development. Let's have more in this report.
Development of the Tilenga oil project, part of the two main projects in the Albertine Graben, has lately secured a clear direction, judging by the current progress of the onshore developments spread across the northern part in Murchison Falls National Park and the south in rural Bulisa district, where works on the industrial area and central processing facility are on course.
Regarding the Tilenga project, we have started the civil works regarding the industrial area. We have also started the civil works regarding the well pads. The well pads are the areas where we'll drill the wells in order to produce oil.
We are close to 3,000. About 2,000 are here inside the industrial area, and on the well pad, because we started also the activity of the well pad, about 800. Okay, so about 2,200, 800. 2,200 inside the industrial area, 800 on the offside. And we have the north branch, which will be on Monday. I think they'll give you more data on the north branch. But the south, we are 3,000, and we will arrive to 8,000. This is what is planned. The peak, once the maximum will be at 8,000 person walking around. And the north and the south, okay, the whole POB of the project.
6,400 hectares of land are to be utilized in effecting all the necessary developments, both the Tilenga and Eco projects. From the camps, new and renovated road infrastructure, among others, to the well pads. Of the 31 well pads, 10 are in Murchison Falls National Park and the rest in the south of the project, targeting all the 426 wells interconnected by flow lines to the central processing facility, all with a restoration and decommissioning plan at the fall of the project.
Very specific handover process, so we don't hand over a site that's been restored until the government authorities say it's okay. So we come and do an inspection with Uganda Wildlife Authority. It also involves the district environment officer, and also sometimes we have representation from NEMA. So they all come, and it's only when all of those parties agree and we have a formal sign-off of the well pad, and then a formal handover as well. So as of now, we've handed over all of the exploration pads except for 2, which are currently in the process of being handed across.
It's mid of 2025. We'll be ready with the construction and ready to produce in this facility. So from this facility, we inject the oil inside the feeder line that goes to join the other line coming from Kingfisher and go to the ECOP project. It's 3 by 1.5, sorry, 2 by 1.5. But this is from outside to outside, which we are not using even all of it. What we are using is now inside to inside, and eventually, let's say the industrial area is a CPF is 800 by 800. This is the main point that we have to remember. Is 800 by 800.
According to the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, there is more to comprehend about the value and gravity of the project as a new dawn for socio-economic transformation amidst national and international anxiety and concern over oil and gas extremes, with production expected in mid-2025.
So these 4 projects, Tilenga at about 4 billion, 4 to 5 billion, Kingfisher 2 to 3 billion, ECOP about 5 billion, although part of it is in Tanzania. Then the refinery also is expected to be about 4 billion. altogether come at more than $15 billion. And they are happening at the same time. So that's why you see that the oil and gas project is 10 times the biggest project that Uganda has had. Now, you will agree with me that this is a very significant opportunity for the country in terms of providing goods and services. Of course, it's even more advantageous because the oil and gas operations in Uganda are onshore. Onshore means they're on land.
The Tilenga project has availed 9 key contract areas and countless subcontract opportunities. Key areas in oilfield services, drilling rigs, EPSCC, electrical logging and camp management services, oil country tubular goods, waste management, access roads, among others. With fast oil a key priority, the load stream has so far attracted 3,000 workers at the industrial area and the central processing facility, with local companies such as Pearl Engineering and Envirosal, for instance, tagged in, and the number of workers expected to rise to 8,000 when production starts. Ivan Tibenkana, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Away from that, officials from the Ministry of Finance have told the Budget Committee to wait until the 15th of February to receive the half-year budget performance of the year 2022-2023 because the law requires them to do so by the end of February. We have more in this report.
On Wednesday last week, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives gave the Ministry of Finance the order to provide the Budget Committee with all relevant documents.
Ministry of Finance provide the committee with all necessary information by 9 a.m. on Friday, so that the committee meets at 10, starts processing the report. They are going to work over the weekend, but you're even making people suffer over the weekend over information which you have.
Particularly the report on the budget performance for the current fiscal year. When they appeared before the committee today, they assured them that the law permits them to do so by the end of February, but they will be able to deliver it to the committee by the 15th of February.
Perhaps it seems I'm not very clear. The law requires us to submit by end of February. Yeah. We have offered to submit just by mid-February. And I can actually have a predicament because you are also, perhaps, this is what made you to come in earlier than you should, to demand us to bring a document which we don't actually have. I think you allowed yourself to be ahead of time by people putting pressure on you.
Even though the committee is intended to discuss its report in the House tomorrow, the members of the committee believe it is extremely smart to examine the budget framework document after evaluating the budget's performance for the first half of the year.
The PSST gave his submission and he quoted the law. I was in the House with you when you were presenting the report, and I remember how the Speaker put you to task to really submit the DFP together with the budget performance report, and it became a serious issue of debate. But I don't know how we forgot to quote the law that day, because that day you defended yourself using the law when the law said you were smuggling in something differently, but you defended it using the law that it was the right thing. And I don't know how we forgot also to have the law that the PSST has just quoted to us. I think the only thing we have now is to be clear on this, so that we have the DFP finalized as we also wait for February 15th.
I don't know if it will require some reforms in the government to make even this performance reporting more electronic, so that it is real time, so that finance doesn't need to wait for reports and then they come. We need to have clear KPIs that we can capture and say, this is the money you had, this is what has been done, this is what you released. So in lieu of that, Mr. Chairman, I anticipate very serious debate on the floor if we are not well prepared.
Dr. Otala Emmanuel has warned the government to take their business seriously because no one has contested the law on the deadline, but they can always supply information when questioned because they are in command of the budget.
To be serious, I just realized that PSST might be deliberately dragging his feet because he knows very well that the date of 15th Feb is by. That means he can make it earlier than that. So that's why I'm saying, can't you make it earlier than 15th?
Even though finance has not been able to comment on the effectiveness of the budget, the committee has asked it to explain why Parliament appropriates money to some sectors but then it fails to release it, giving the impression that Parliament is powerless.
And I think this is the committee which you should be honest to. And you say, if you have problems with cash, let's be open to each other. Because we represent the people. We are the ones who appropriate this money. If there are challenges, you be open with us, PSC. Then we all work on it together. But if you hide and you say you're okay, like the Minister of Finance came on the floor of Parliament, saying we have given all this money, and a minister of government stood up and said, no, we have not received that money. And the Speaker was even wondering now, what kind of cabinet is it?
The Budget Committee is expected to present its report on the budget performance for the year 2021-2022 tomorrow in Parliament. But this may not be possible because Finance has pushed it to 15th of February. The question is, will the Budget Committee continue to present the performance of the budget framework paper, or it will have to wait for Finance to present the performance of the year 2021-2022? Sam Lanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, our next report looks at real estate and rental tax permutations. Now, to meet its financial obligations, the Uganda Revenue Authority levies a variety of taxes. One of the many important issues for business owners in the real estate industry is rental tax. Now, the summit between the Association of Real Estate Agents and the Uganda Revenue Authority is so expected to result in an agreement to standardize the business environment. We have more in this report.
Like any other form of tax, such as property tax, corporate tax, among others, rental tax incites a special understanding as an obligation by taxpayers, such as landlords and tenants. The current tax regime is therefore yet to be ascertained by the high capital investments in the rental property that has steadily grown with the housing demand and prayers in turn of the concern over the tax amendments.
The real estate actors is to help us understand the tax regime for starters, and also for them to understand us, where we come from, and understand the impact of the taxes, and for us to harmonize and come together with a position that is workable for both the government and the real estate players. Let us understand why they are taxing us like that. Let them understand why we are complaining about the taxes. Let them understand the business, and not to stifle it, but to promote the real estate business, to attract investment into the sector, and not to actually discourage investment.
Meanwhile, Uganda Revenue Authority, on the other end, expects voluntary compliance after the engagement, despite discontent over sustainability of businesses in the face of the growing revenue demand to address budgetary demands.
There are a number of players. We have owners of buildings, owners of apartments, we have surveyors, engineers, lawyers. We have a number of players in the industry, so we wanted, one, to understand it and the gymnastics in the industry, two, to make clear of certain tax types that are applicable to the sector, because one may not know whether that tax type is actually eligible to the sector in which they're operating. So we wanted to make certain clarifications and maybe pointing them to some of the amendments for this year as in computation, because when you look at the rental income tax, the regime, the computations have been changing over 3 years. They've been evolving from 2020, 21, 21, 22, then 22, 23. So we wanted to make it clear for them, because when somebody files, they need to know what to expect and how to compute it for themselves. So ideally, we are here with a number of stakeholders, but led under area, to see how best we can, one, strengthen on the stakeholder collaboration, and we have a hope that voluntary compliance will be met in terms of filing and payment. And at the end of the day, we are meant to develop Uganda together.
The investment climate has been compromised by the difficulty to strike a balance between tax obligations and a turnover per financial year amid its capital intensiveness and an unpredictable business direction in the light of inflation, among other macroeconomic challenges.
We are not saying that we want to cap tax to a certain amount, but we want, first of all, the administration of the taxes to be friendly, but also listen to us, give us incentives, yeah, collect in a friendly way, yeah, understand us. Why are we not allowed to deduct expenses fully, for example? Yeah? Why do we have to cap expenses in rental tax to a certain amount? Like they have been telling us, you can only be allowed 50% of your expenses.
According to URA, it is paramount that investors assess their property portfolio to understand their tax obligations, avoid penalties and unplanned cash outflows.
Even though it's 50 shillings, it's a penalty. It's harsh, depending on your level. To some person, maybe 100,000 could be low. To another, it is big. A penalty is high, but it is meant to trigger you, to change your behavior. It is not meant to kill your business. It's meant to help you change your behavior. But to some extent, some penalties could be high, but they are informed by decisions that come from the Ministry of Finance, because these come through policy amendments. Ideally, as URA, we cannot probably reverse them.
Ronana Habwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
And now let's turn our eyes to the budget framework process. Uganda's transformation agenda and the financial plans are partly shaped by the National Budget Framework Paper, part of the budget setting process done every financial year. However, the current underscored priorities have been heavily criticized, and today we take a closer look at the gaps within.
Despite the relevancy of the National Budget Framework Paper in the budget setting process, highlights of a botched approach have emerged, fostered by poor fiscal performance, past questionable spending patterns, failure to account for external factors informing budget implementation, limited involvement of civil society and private sector, among other factors.
In developing this, there are a number of gaps that we have realized as civil society. If you look at the theme of the NBFP, it's targeting to monetize the economy fully. It's looking at full monetization of the economy. And this means bringing about that 39% of the households who are under subsistence in the money economy, so that at least they can contribute to the taxes, So it has a very well aligned theme, to the NDP3s and all the other plans that we have as a country. And they are very clear in what areas they want to do this. One is through agro-industrialization, very key. As a country, almost 75% is within the agriculture sector. They want to use services. They want to do this through industrialization. They want to do this through digital transformation, and very importantly, market access.
According to Julius Mukunda, the Executive Director sees back, government should consider discretionary spending in order to portion its budget allocations to programs and initiatives and rectify shortfalls. Much of the country's financial allotments haven't clearly been within reach of the country's discretionary revenue, greatly relying on debt to finance the national budget.
Despite the increment in the government budget, discretionary spending has reduced. Discretionary spending is the amount of money available for you as a government to spend the way you want. But it has reduced. Not only by 100 million, no, 2.1 trillion Ugandan shillings. That's huge. That is equivalent to the whole budget of agriculture plus water. So the indications and indicators are not good for our debt sustainability and management.
Uganda, like many emerging economies, has relied on a deficit budget in a bid to push transformation. However, there is growing demand to effect resource mobilization through priority investment in sectors with potential to drive the economy and generate revenue. By that, advocacy groups expect amends to inefficiencies.
As a country, we operate what they call a deficit budget, meaning that our expenditures are way more than our revenues that we intend to get. As such, means we borrow quite a lot. So investing in the sectors that bring back, like the tourism, would be a very good venture that we think would have been considered. Why? The NDP3 tells you that full investment in the tourism sector to a tune of about 500 billion. As a country, it can get us about 6.5 trillion.
The agriculture sector, the tourism sector, mindset change sector and health sector are being lobbied to receive high consideration in the national budget framework process. These, if well managed, are in position to rally the country's economic growth. These sectors will put forward potential to remedy revenue challenges and bring in more investors, hence sustainable development. Mathani Msima, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now, as corruption continues to bite, we now look at the cost of corruption to the economy. Uganda's economy and business sector are facing significant challenges due to the prevalence of corruption and bribery. Now, despite attempts by the government to curb this issue, it continues to impact the country's progress and undermine the confidence of both local and foreign businesses. Bronia Katusime with more.
Despite the relevancy of the National Budget Framework paper in the budget setting process, highlights of a botched approach have emerged, fostered by poor fiscal performance, past questionable spending patterns, failure to account for external factors informing budget implementation.
An empirical study initiated by the Inspectorate of Government in 2021 discovered that 23% of the annual government budget is lost to corruption. Corruption in the public sector is common in many developing nations, which has an impact on contracting procedures, the allocation of public funds, and procurement procedures. Numerous studies, including the East Africa Bribery Index and the National Integrity Survey, demonstrate that Ugandan citizens frequently can only access public services, particularly health and education, if they are prepared to pay a bribe to the government employees who act as gatekeepers of these services.
Now government won't realize its goal, because now you will see that if you look at the financial year 2022 and 2023, you will find that government's projections are always affected by elements of corruption, by elements of bribe. You find that recently the Auditor General's report was indicating that some government agencies are not even making returns to URA. They're not making returns to bodies which are responsible for receiving returns, and that alone hinders the development of a country, because now we won't have a basket or a pool of funds, to sustain number of government programs and activities. Close to $1 trillion or more than $1 trillion has been lost.
In order to significantly reduce corruption, it is important to put in place strong anti-corruption laws and institutions, improve accountability, and promote openness in government spendings. Alvin Mutebi, a policy expert, argues that Uganda must put the laws against corruption into effect rather than just having them on paper.
Let us be systematic. Detect the corruption, come up with a report, and implicate the right person for having been fraudulent while in a public office. And then we shall take action based on the report that has been thoroughly investigated.
Corruption is a scourge of modern life, costing not only Uganda but the world $483 billion in tax abuse by multinational corporations and rich people, and $13 trillion in public spending lost to corruption.
But we do not have information to quantify the damages, the true actual figures, to quantify the damages that these elements of corruption has caused to the economy. Because now, to me, I would suggest that if we now start calculating, we'll be like, okay, this financial year, this is what we expected to have achieved. How much have we achieved? And what are the contributions of corruption towards this? And then we can now elevate and see, or we can now compare and see the performance of the economy, and then we see the bottlenecks, which are corruption and maybe bribery.
In order to overcome these obstacles, the government must combat corruption holistically and collaborate with the private sector to improve the business climate and increase transparency. The public has to stop accepting corruption as a way of life, but instead be aware that they have a right to decent service. Bronia Katsime, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now let's look at saving for investment. Despite numerous government programs aimed at alleviating poverty and improving service delivery, the people of the Ssonko sub-region remain impoverished in various ways. Now, as a result, Community leaders have begun to educate rural communities in the Busoga sub-region about investing and saving through SACCOs. So far, 10,300 people have been recruited. Naomi Mutumba reports.
The availability of financial services like credit and savings remains limited for many Ugandans. The availability of financial services to the population aged 18 and over has improved from 57% in 2020 to 72% in 2021, according to Sinovate Limited's FinScope 2021 Uganda report. However, a sizable minority of Ugandans continue to live in poverty and receive inadequate services, especially in rural areas. As a result, many community leaders in the Busoga sub-region have begun to teach rural populations about investing and saving through SACCOs. With the intention of commercially cultivating sunflowers and raising goats, 100,000 workers have so far been hired.
Use this function as a restaurant to sensitize persons. We have within a program called Save for Investment. This is a program whereby we mobilize our clients, our members, to keep on saving, to adopt the culture of saving.
100,000 members. So in 100,000 members, each they have several SACCOs, saving SACCOs. So in those saving SACCOs, they have different projects. They have a project of sunflower right now that they are doing the saving cash allowance. They want to start a bigger farm of sunflower very soon. They have also, they want to involve themselves also in goat farming. That's what I got involved in, goat farming. They want also to involve themselves in value addition, buying raw materials, products, and then they add value.
This will be accomplished by meeting with several village SACCOs and cooperatives to identify needs and provide solutions. Members of these villages have so far been able to invest in farming practices through being mobilized.
That per every district, at least we put there a model farm, depending on the interest of those members within that district. Like setting up an example, like within Jinja district, we resolved that they will be doing dairy farming. But alongside with the other small activities, other economic activities like poultry, like piggery, like improved farming in the sugarcane growing, such activities like that.
Local authorities take a number of steps to assure the sustainability of development projects in the area, including educating the populace about the development trends they can adopt, particularly with regard to saving and investing, and charged Busoga women with leading development initiatives. Women, they have told you to engage into development projects. But what I can say is, let's be part of these initiatives. But as we do that, I want to make sure you understand what you are doing.
After mobilizing them to come up in their subgroups, because within this organization, our activities are done through subgroups in between 15 to 30 members. So within those groups, we usually visit them, we sensitize them on development activities and on other development purposes like saving.
In order to provide financial services to rural populations, it is essential to support SACCOs and other community-based savings and credit organizations. This would be made easier by the application of pertinent laws and policies, as well as the existence of powerful apex organizations that encourage the growth of sustainable SACCOs. Naomi Mutumba, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
And our Business Today does take a commercial break. We do return with more, including our coffee cup discussions. Stick around.
Smart 24, driving business.
Futinbuto, the taste of Uganda in a new international park.
He must be rich, tall, handsome, from a respectable family. He must have a maid because at our home we do not work.
Conductor Masao.
Owa, obadde olobye ku ssimu?
Yamunange, anti yo TV enkolera.
Nyumira omulembe omupya ogujjudde ebisanyusa omuli emikutu gya TV egisukka mu 8 n'egya radio nga kwotadde ne zifirimu ng'osinziirira wonna w'oli. Genda mu App Store oteeke app ya GOTV channels ku simu yo olwo onyumirwe ennaku 3 ng'olabira bwereere ewatali kukozesa data. GOTV channels.
Smart 24, driving business.
We'll be back from the break. Let's continue with more business today. Now we'll look at the developing Ssonko's economic muscle. Uganda being among the top agricultural countries in Africa, locals from Greater Kabale have been challenged to join the savings and credit cooperative societies to improve their livelihoods and benefit from different government projects. These remarks were made by different economists during the second annual general meeting of the Greater Kabale Community Cooperative Society Limited that took place at White Horse Inn in Kabale. We have more in this report.
According to Eliabna Turinda Mporera, the chairperson of the board of directors of Greater Kabale Community Cooperative Society Limited, the only way to grow the community is through community empowerment, mobilization of the resources to one resource envelope to benefit the entire community. According to Mporera, the Ssonko has raised more than 60 million shillings in their first 6 months of operation.
In less than 6 months, has managed to raise 50 million and above. Our target was just about 30 million, but along the way, we said in less than 6 months, we must reach 50 million. As you can see today, I am sure 70 million mark has been reached. That shows you two things. One is that the only way to develop the community is through economic empowerment, where people can come together.
Porera appealed to the community to participate in the development of Ssonko's economic muscle through the mobilization and support from friends.
We must also develop our, economic muscle as Bachiga, as Banyashijezi, as a country, as Africa. The only way to do that is still mobilizing our own friends who are able and willing. That's why you can see in this circle of ours, the friends who are supporting us, they are not necessarily Bachiga. Some of them are Somalis, some of them are from the US.
The head of accounts at Makerere School of Law, Ronald Mpirirwe, who presided over the Greater Kabale Community Cooperative Society Limited's annual general meeting, urged Ssonko members and other stakeholders to think about saving and setting goals to achieve. Pirirwe urged the people who save to also think about taking out loans to advance their own lives.
One, you need to first know your goal. If your goal, you have come in a cooperative and your goal is to do other things for luxury, you will not achieve what has got you. Commercially, usually when you save, commercially you're supposed to do, when you save, get a loan. A loan encourages you, even you, a member, to start doing agriculture. Let me say that. You can save, pick a loan, go and do agriculture. Let's say planting Irish. You plant Irish in 3 months. In 3 months, you're able to pay back the loan and you have also gained the interest.
The government of Uganda has continuously launched programs aiming at poverty eradication amidst the citizens, but this has only been a success through savings and credit cooperative societies in a bid to the saving culture in communities. Mercy Katsime for Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, the development of free zones in Uganda is a significant step towards strengthening Uganda's trade engagement in the area. The overall goal of the country's adoption of free zones is to foster economic growth and the growth of export-oriented manufacturing in all sectors of the economy. In our Coffee Code tonight, we have an in-depth discussion on Uganda's free trade zones. Let's have more.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Coffee Court. My name is Rona Nahabwe, and with me, with the director from Uganda Free Zones Authority, who will basically be talking to us about the mandate of a free zone, because we all know what a free zone, or most people might not know what a free zone is. Usually, free zones for any economic state are the nation drivers for economic and regional trade, as well as international trade. They also attract foreign indirect investment. So such free zones are really pertinent issues that Ugandans or any of you there might want to know. You're welcome, and say with the viewers.
Thank you, Rona. My name is Rebecca Nalumo. I work with Uganda Free Zones Authority, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. So what is a free zone? What is the role of a free zone?
Maybe before I start with what a free zone is, Uganda Free Zones Authority was set up in 2014. We are a government institution that was set up with the sole objective of promoting export-oriented investments and job creation. So the role of the institution, if I may summarize it, is to enhance export growth, promote industrial-related businesses, and with the purpose of creating employment. But also related to that, the bigger role is to address the trade deficit. By trade deficit, we know that as a country we import more than we export. In fact, we import high-value capital goods and consumer goods and export primary products. So our key role in economic development is to enhance value addition, processing, and specifically promote export processing and production in this scheme so that we enhance export. Of course, the role of export promotion of value addition also comes with technology enhancement. It comes with a technology that may come in through foreign direct investment, but it also comes with a skilling aspect. So we specifically promote export, we facilitate creation of jobs, we facilitate skilling, technology enhancement, and last but not least is the role we play in enhancing local content to ensure that the free zones in the areas in which they are set up either source raw materials from here or they buy from here to promote national or local content. So in that aspect, we also promote linkages, we also promote both backward and also we enhance the forward linkages. So if I may summarize who we are as an institution, we promote exports by one, ensuring that we establish as government, we establish industrial facilities or production units where we have the private sector set up and export. But at the same time, we promote the private sector. It's not only the role of government to set up this industrial infrastructure. You can also have a private sector that may wish to set up the free zone, so they can also establish, they can develop these industrial facilities or production units, but also provide utilities in order to promote exports. So in that case, if you're a private company, we regulate you. So that's the other role we do. So if you're a private company and you want to set up in a free zone, we regulate. So you come and you register with us, we license you, and then you operate in a free zone. But we also market. Like you said, many people may not know that this opportunity exists. So we market, we create awareness about the scheme in the country so that we can have more free zones established, or we can have more private companies take up this opportunity. Then lastly but not least is the advisory role we give to government. So we advise government on enabling policy environment, but also non-policy environment. So with that understanding of who we are, I want to define what a free zone is. When we say a free zone, when we say a special economic zone, when we say an export processing zone, this is simply an area that enables you to import duty-free so that you add value and export without any taxes at importation and also exportation. So there are various types of these schemes. We have the free zone, which of course we're talking about, but there are so many other types. You can have an export processing zone, like the name, it's for value addition in order to export. You can have a free port. A free port is largely for trade purposes, which you can either set up like at the airport, or a border point, or a lake or river port to trade, to provide logistics, to do assembling, to do storage. But the whole idea is whatever is imported does not attract duty with the purpose of re-export. So in summary, a free zone is an area that can permit somebody to do business without paying taxes at importation in order to export.
Speaking of businesses, what are some of the sectors you have aligned as the free zone that you targeted would be able to bring us income and revenue?
The sectors that we prioritize in the free zone mirror the sectors that have been prioritized in the country as a whole. So number one on the list is agriculture and agro-processing. Agriculture and agro-processing, because as a country we have a comparative but also a competitive advantage in it. And the reason we promote it is because we know that over 60% of Ugandans are involved in one way or another in agricultural activities. So it's a sector where we can benefit both in terms of employment directly but also indirectly through the linkages with other industries. So we promote agro-processing. We also promote mineral processing. Mineral processing because we know we have lots of minerals that are still undeveloped, unutilized. So we promote adding value to our own mineral resources and then exporting them in finished form. So if you're mining the gold, we want you to process and sell the necklaces or sell watches. So we want you to add value to our own resources which you've mined in order to export. Of course, manufacturing as a whole, we promote manufacturing in a range of sectors. You can do the food processing we've talked about. You can do dairy processing, dairy products. You can export ice cream. You can export ghee, cheese. You can export meat, beef, processed beef, sausages, and all that we promote. We promote fish processing, so that is in the line of food processing. But also the other sectors in manufacturing, like textile and apparel. So the whole idea about that sector is we want you to come into the free zone and export garments, finished products. We don't want you to come and export lint, process cotton into lint and export. So we have the textile and apparel, we have the leather processing. You can add value to a leather, not export the wet blue, but want you to export footwear, leather footwear, or bags, or belts. So manufacturing across sectors, packaging, whether you're doing packaging, whether you're assembling agricultural equipment or machinery, those are some of the sectors. So in summary, we do agro-processing as number one, top of our agenda. Then manufacturing, under manufacturing, we talked about mineral processing and any other value addition in that sector. And also, just for emphasis, is on services. Services like logistics, transport and logistics are very core to a free zone. The reason we promote those kind of services in a free zone is we want to have ready-made free zones, that if you have companies that are operating in the free zone, you should be able to attract companies or operators who are providing transport and logistics services. For instance, the Balores, they can come and set up in a free zone and provide transport and logistics services so that you have on-site services. So you can have the logistics, you can have the ICT services provided in a free zone, you can have brokerage, and a range of export-oriented services.
Do we have specific statistics to how much you have exported through these free zones?
Yes, we do have the statistics. If I may give an example of maybe five years ago, say in 2017-18, our exports were below $60 million US. But over the years, we've been seeing positive growth in export to about 154 million. Then in 2020-21 alone, the exports in the zone stood at $1.25 billion. So in that year alone, free zones contributed 23% to total exports. In financial year 21-22, however, we had some policy challenges, and the exports in that year were about 67.8 million. But the positive message I want to tell the listeners or those who are watching us is that even much as the export reduced in that year, we had a positive trade balance. We had more exports going out than imports that came into the free zones. So we had a positive trade balance.
Okay. So what does it take for one to have a developer's license to operate in these free zones? What is the criteria?
So for one to get a developer's license, like the word develop, when we say a developer's license, you are the entity, you are the company, you are the enterprise that has to invest in the industrial facilities, that has to invest in the production units. By industrial facilities, I mean, if you're a developer, you're the one who has to show us the land, where you're going to locate. So that land ideally should be acquired land. So you're the one who has to develop the horizontal infrastructure. You're the one who has to bring the water on site. You have to bring the power. You have to bring the ICT. On site utilities is on you. So we refer to you as a developer. You're the one who has to build the vertical infrastructure. You're the one who has to put up the warehouses, the production units, the office block, all the vertical related infrastructure. So we refer to that person as a developer. So what does it take? Of course, you have to have a site. The site has to be in a very economically competitive area. It shouldn't endanger the environment, and it shouldn't have any security risk. So the site is key, and then once we come and inspect your area for suitability, and this we do in collaboration with other government institutions like the Revenue Authority. We work with the Ministry of Lands. We work with the National Environment to ensure that there is no environmental negative impact. So once you have that site and we do the preliminary inspections, then you apply to us. The application fees are $250, and we do an evaluation. Our interest for a developer really is to show that the companies that are going to locate in your area are going to produce for export. So we want you to give us a business plan. And in this business plan, you clearly map out how much you want to invest. But the most important criteria we look at is export and also employment, as well as the backward linkages. So once we've completed that process, then we subject that evaluation further to the Ministry of Finance, because that area has to be gazetted by a statutory instrument. So the minister facilitates the gazettement through signing of a statutory instrument. And once that area has been declared, then we issue with a license.
That now draws me to challenges that you might experience as the authority of free zones. I think last year I was at one of your engagements with some of your suppliers, and there was something that was highlighted, that there is an infrastructure problem in regards to people that have to bring into free zones. What is the gravity of the challenges you face as an authority?
I would say that the challenges as we face as an institution are largely, right now, have been largely on the policy side. Okay. Policy means that trying to harmonize the way the free zones are implemented in Uganda with the region and also the global understanding. So there have been challenges in terms of potential investors who want to come into the scheme, and their understanding is that, of course, if you're producing for export and in the event that you don't have an international market, you can sell your products here. So on the policy side, the biggest challenge has been that the scheme restricts you to sell only 20%. And that 20% has to be in the East African community. So with the restriction of that 20%, it has affected those companies, even the locals actually, who have potential to export, but would wish to sell more than 20% into the market. So that has been one of the challenges. The good news is as the region, as the East African community, last year, end of last year, we came up with additional schemes that will be more flexible. We are now adopting the special economic zones and also specifically new schemes that will allow those who produce in these schemes to be able to sell in the local market. But when they sell in the local market, there will be no restriction on how much. So the 20% will be no more. Their only requirement would be that when you sell, if you sell 50%, then you have to pay the taxes. So I would say that that has been one of the policy challenge we've had, but it has been addressed. And as a country, we've been, as a country, also as an institution, we've been working very closely with line ministries, other stakeholders to adopt this reform. So the discussions have started. We've done regulatory impact assessments, and it's pointing to, yes, we need the special economic zones. Why? Other partner states have adopted them, but more importantly, within the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, one of the vehicles to enhance exports into that market, the Africa region, will be through the special economic zone. So that policy issue, I would say in the next 1 or 2 years will be no more because we're adopting a new scheme.
That reminds me, recently the PS said that they are going to revise, tax incentives for these foreign investors. Now, if you're giving someone the benefit of the doubt that maybe in 5 years I'm going to have a plan where I will train, Ugandans to benefit from the free zone, and then it doesn't come to pass, how do you arrive to a decision of revoking the license and terminating, because then there won't be any development in the country?
We in free zones, like one of our major or our main functions or responsibilities, we monitor, we supervise. There is an aspect of that is the aspect of regulation also, to ensure that when you give us your business plan and say I'm going to create 1,000 jobs, I'll create the jobs. And every year you have to give us an annual performance report to show that, yes, those jobs were created or they were not created with justifiable reasons, because, sometimes the economy, there may be changes in your customers. So we work with you, we monitor to ensure that you comply with the commitments on jobs, on exports, to ensure that you do not abuse the tax incentive that we've given you. So every year, you give us your reports, and the data you provide us has to be accurate. In fact, if it's inaccurate, that's one of the measures we take to revoke your license. So requirement, you have to give us your reports. We come and inspect to verify the reports that you've given us on a quarterly basis, showing your performance, showing how much you've invested, showing how many people you're skilling, to ensure that as a country we benefit. So we need accurate data, we need reports. If you don't give us that kind of information, it's one of the justifications we'll take to revoke your license.
Any call to local investors to embrace this free zone activity?
Yes, I would like to invite the private sector out there. That, of course, as government, we are establishing this industrial infrastructure to set up these economic zones. But even the private sector out there, as long as you're adding value for export, you can come to us and take up this opportunity. The advantage you have in operating in a free zone, you have dedicated services in addition to the fiscal incentives that we talked about. So it's not just setting up in a government-owned free zone. The companies we have in these zones right now are private. So you come to us, we shall facilitate you through registration, we shall facilitate you through the engagements with customs, engagements with immigration and any other government institution so that you have the best service operating in a free zone. We want to tell the private sector out there that the market is there. We have new markets that have been with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. They are markets. So we are looking for private companies that we can facilitate so that they add value and manufacture in these zones and export. So let them come to us. We are located on a communication house, floor 6. We also have our website, www.freezones.go.ug. Please come physically. Sometimes the website may have information, but there is that information that you can come through interacting with us. We are very open, and we've been able to facilitate companies that are with us and also those that are coming. So please come to us so that we can facilitate you. And you have the best experience of operating in an environment where you have dedicated government officers to facilitate you. Thank you.
Any parting remarks as we conclude?
The parting remarks is that the free zone is here, and it is here to stay. The legal and policy environment is continuously improving. So we want you to come and work with us so that we develop the country together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for allowing to speak to us. And of course, once the public free zone is complete, this is a big call to Ugandans who would like to venture in industrialization, agro-processing, or they have the capability to attain this space in the free zone. My name is Joram. Until next time.
And it's a minute to the top of the hour as we are signing out. I'm Joram Ssonko with Winnie Wees and Akauchi on sign language. You've been watching Business Today till tomorrow on the 31st of January. But as of now, we do wish you a blessed night and a good evening.